Hi everyone, Max here. I am at Lorraine Niedecker's cabin in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, here with members of the Friends of Lorraine Niedecker, who I've had the pleasure of meeting today and spending the morning and afternoon with. Here we have Tom Montag, Ann Engelman, Carl Gartung, Steele Wagstaff, and Nancy Shea. And today we're going to be doing a reading of Foreclosure. Steele, would you like to read the poem for us?
Sure. Foreclosure. Tell 'em to take my bare walls down, my cement abutments, their parties thereof, and claws of claws. Leave me the land, scratch out the land. May prose and property both die out, and leave me peace.
Thank you, Steele. So this seemed like an appropriate poem to do since we are at Lorraine's home. And this is a poem all about property and home and land. So let's just get right into it. I'm personally interested in the cement abutments, seeing this house. And the bare walls, although I have yet to see the inside. How does this poem work for everybody in terms of what we know about the way that Lorraine lived when she lived here? Is this, or what's the tone of this poem? And what's her attitude towards, let's say, property?
The poem that I think of immediately, actually, when I read this poem, is I think of the Black Hawk Held poem. It's another poem that Niedecker's pretty well known for, where she's kind of contrasting Black Hawk and Native American leaders' views about property and what can be owned, only things that can be taken with you, versus, I guess, the common conception of property as something like you might own real estate. And I think that when I think of Niedecker, I think it's a pretty healthy skepticism of ownership generally, certainly of being a rentier. I don't think she enjoyed that very much. That's kind of the word that we throw around now, the rentier class. But there's definitely a sense that she did not enjoy being a landlord, and there's a pretty strong anti-capitalist streak, I think, throughout Niedecker and for this poem especially.
By rentier, you mean landlord, landowner,
someone who's like
sure.
deriving rents from a thing
Yeah.
without producing economic value, but like...
Which comes from her father owning property here. He owned right over there, adjacent, I think.
Well, basically, they owned pretty much the whole island at one point.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
And he lost it.
Well, he sold it off to pay for Gertrude. This is Peyton Place here. Gertrude Runke.
And who was Gertrude, Carl?
Gertrude Runke.
And
she was Henry's paramour for pay, sort of.
Friend with benefits, you're saying?
Yeah. Well, she got fringe benefits.
Friend with benefits.
French benefits.
well, wasn't part of it that she had a relationship with Lorraine's father?
Yes.
And in order to keep her husband sort of happy and quiet, he would sell land to them.
I think there was some kind of a sweetheart land deal, like $1, or something.
I think that's right.
That's putting an underline under
sweetheart. Ironic choice of words. But like, there's certainly a sense that after her father's death, Lorraine then owns land, and there are tenants there, and so if they don't make rent for whatever reason, she's got to evict them or foreclose, or like, that's not a pleasant experience for anyone, much less Lorraine Niedecker and what we know about her feelings about money and poverty and time
and she says, leave me the land, but her father didn't leave her very much. And scratch out the land. Scratch out, does that mean scratch out a living of the land?
Well, so read the sentence, leave me the land, but leave out the words the land now, yeah?
Leave out the word what?
Leave out, she says, leave me the land. Now scratch out the land, just read the first two words.
Scratch out.
No, sorry.
No, the previous
leave
line.
me.
Leave me the land. Scratch out the land, and so the sentence is now, leave me.
Yeah.
That's where it gets like, because you can say, scratch out the land, like you're thinking about, eking out or scratching out a living.
Yeah.
But also,
Oh.
like, you've got a sentence, leave me the land, and then you scratch out the word the land.
This is why we do these.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so leave
That's
me.
that's
leave
what we
me.
would call the meta-poetic reading, where she's poeticizing her writing process, right? By saying, "Leave me the land, scratch that, just take out the land, where I'm going to erase that."
But that technique is part and parcel of her style. I mean, it's not an accident that she's doing this stuff. That's how she proceeds.
Sure,
I
for
mean,
sure.
but it's also super intelligent because that's 8 words, right? We've got 8 words, and you can see like 4 or 5 multiplying meanings from this, right?
Okay,
Leave me the land is a sentiment that you might say like, okay, when you die, at least leave me the land, or I want to inherit this thing, right? So that you start with this sentiment, you're like, oh, I think I understand it, and then she like the next line just complicates it so much. Scratch out the land.
So if you scratch that out and it's just leave me.
Leave me
Leave me what?
alone. Leave me peace.
Yeah.
Leave me.
May
The
pro-
last line of the poem.
Then it would be leave me. May prose and poetry both die out.
No, prose
and
and
leave-
property.
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 That's
You're
a
right. Prose and poetry both dying out would be a very
Yeah,
different
no.
kind of poem.
Because one of her poems talked about I enrich the law
Yes.
because she was paying lawyers
Yeah, right?
or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So this idea of like prose can die out, fine with that going away. Like scratch out the land, like may property die out. That's a radical idea. That's very communist,
And leave
right?
me in peace.
Leave me peace.
So
I don't think it's communist in that
did
case.
you get that part of it?
No,
I mean,
I
the
look
evolution
at,
of private property.
right.
I guess I look at the scratch out and how it references the clause of clause.
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
And-
What a great echo, right?
I love that.
And,
Right.
you know, so to me it makes me think about,
So
you
it's
know,
simpler then.
yeah, the law. You know, the laws,
Yeah.
the legal complications of being this property owner.
She's
And
she's working through some sort of bureaucratic kerfuffle or snafu, right? That seems to attend any sense we have of property, right? Like you can't just have land. It's like your land. It's my land. It's
So the clause is law and legal stuff.
Well, so the first instance of clause is like there's clauses in a contract,
Right,
and when they're
right.
violated, that's what triggers the foreclosure. But to make it, the clause is saying something about like that's not a benign reading of the legal clause, as you're saying, right? Like that's like it's vicious, it's violent, it's something that's sharp, and the law's being used.
And parties thereof is legal language.
yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
This is why we have to do these things.
But also think about the many meanings of their parties thereof. So you can picture in your mind maybe noisy tenants, like we had the party boat turn their volume down, right? Their parties thereof, but also like the people who are party to a contract. Like
Yes.
it's one word, but it multiplies in so many ways in that classic Niedecker way, right?
So what were the cement abutments?
Probably a foundation.
It's just a
No.
great sound. Too.
Abutments.
It's great. Cement abutments.
Abutments.
those
Does not sound pleasant. It does not sound
things
pleasant.
along the shore too, cement.
Those two
retaining walls.
first lines are so sensual, I think. You know, it just, I don't know if anyone else reads it that
Sure.
way, but it's, you know, and it really gives a sense of violation
Yeah.
when it goes to the clause of clause. So there's this real sensuality and a violation that I read into that.
I'm interested by her saying my bare walls,
Yeah,
and
right.
what
Totally.
how does it
Nancy
work with
pointed
her
it out.
ambivalence towards owning property or owning a house, right? To then in this first line to say my bare walls. It's not just the bare walls, they're mine.
Yeah, Niedecker is not really well known for using the first person, right, in the poems. Maybe.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
not her poems are not generally about her in like a confessional kind of way. So
I think she's accepting ownership that I do own these. I have to worry about them. I want to get out of it, but they are my bare walls until I do.
and the statement that they're bare walls says something about her investment in that kind of ownership. Like there are many kind of walls you could keep. You could keep florid walls. You could keep well decorated walls. Bare walls is like, look,
This
I'm
is
not-
not
I have not poured a lot of
enriched at
myself
all.
into this, right?
Yeah.
My cement abutments. There's something kind of sexy and kind of funny about that too,
Um,
right? Yeah.
I have two things that occur to me. Number one, she had the Communist Manifesto in her library, and it was marked up, and annotations, things that are underlined, are recorded in the database of what was there. If she was not a communist, she was a communist sympathizer, at least a socialist.
Oh, sure.
So these thoughts about property are very much out of that background, I think.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, she's reading Thoreau. She's definitely interested in like the Progressive Party and La Follette's politics as a young person in Wisconsin. So I think like the sense of skepticism about property and deriving one's income from property, I think she would have felt very uncomfortable with that, and yet that was part of how she made a life, right? In
Yeah.
poverty, right, for herself.
So she doesn't want really the buildings anymore. She just wants the land.
Scratch out.
Oh,
She don't
right,
even want the
scratch on
land
land.
anymore.
But
She wants
it's
one
it's,
thing.
it's ambivalent, right? Like I don't know. I when I read this, I do think that she's trying to get back to some sort of sense of the land pre-private property.
Yeah,
Since
so-
we're continuing this kind of Marxist reading, right?
Okay, so we've got land, and on top of it, we've built the structure.
And we've created the land, my land, your land. We've created the sense of land as a thing you own.
Yeah, and so you got to, if we're taking Marxist terms, we talk about the superstructure or whatever, but so we're just imagining a piece of land with a house built on it. And the poem starts by saying, tear the house down.
Yeah.
Take the walls down, take the abutments, leave me just the land. And then she's like, no, I don't even want the land. Like, tear that down too. Take it all away. Take it all away. All I want you to leave me with is peace.
And take away the laws that govern this land as well, right?
That's pretty anarchic or nihilistic. Not nihilistic in the sense of like, but it's like destroy this system. It's a bit of an angry poem in a way.
And the poem is titled Foreclosure.
Yeah.
There's another poem that has foreclosure in it. The one that goes, do you mind if I read another poem?
Please,
All right.
please take us there, Carl.
Property is poverty.
Yes.
I've foreclosed. I own again. These walls thin as the back of my writing tablet, and more. All who live here, card table to eat on, broken bed, sacrifice for less than art.
That's a heartbreaking poem. It's about having to foreclose on a poor family that aren't even suffering for art. They're suffering because they're poor.
Jeez.
And Black Hawk Island was not an easy place to live in its time.
Or now,
Well,
for other
yeah,
reasons.
that's right.
The other thing I wanted to say about this poem, I opened my book. You did a handout for us, but I wanted to see it in my book, and I noticed that I have marked the stresses. And if you read the lines and put in the beats on the rest, they are 4 stress lines.
For example, there they are.
Scansion. The art of scansion. There we
The,
go.
the,
and
the
I
lost
find-
art of scansion.
And I find that she does that all the time. You could, it's William Carlos Williams'
The triadic
variable
line, the
variable foot. It's as if the words can be whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, but each line is a measure.
Yeah.
And so if there are 8 words in the line, then they are eighth notes. And you have to allow for the rests.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting to me about this is that, like, the poem itself is an act of this musical making, but that's the poem is saying, like, it's not just destroy this whole structure because I'm angry. The poem ends like, leave me peace, and the assumption is, in order to do what? What does Niedecker want peace for?
Right.
She wants
to
peace.
write.
Yes. Right? And that's what's really circular and beautiful about it.
Yeah.
Like, leave me peace so that I can make these, like, gorgeous musical diamond objects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And the party
Machine
boat
made
is
of
now
words, as Williams would say.
Say that again.
A machine made
out
of words, as William Carlos Williams would say.
Yeah.